I woke up in a hospital room, blinding white light, beeping machines, tubes connected to my arm, and absolutely no memory of how I got there. The first thing I heard was a voice, my mother's, crying, saying my name over and over. Marcus, thank God you're awake. Thank God you're awake. I opened my eyes fully and tried to speak, but there was something in my throat, a tube. I tried to pull it out, but a nurse appeared and gently stopped me. You're okay, she said calmly. You've been in a coma for 3 weeks. Your body needs time to recover. Everything is going to be all right. 3 weeks? 3 weeks? I didn't remember anything. I didn't remember how I got to the hospital. I didn't remember the accident, the illness, anything that could have put me in a coma. If you're here because you love medical mysteries, survival stories, and revelations that change everything, subscribe to the channel now. Turn on notifications, because the story I'm about to tell will leave you questioning everything. My name is Marcus, and when I woke up in a coma, I discovered that my life had been a complete lie. The doctors ran tests, MRI, CT scan, blood work, everything, and all the results were normal. My brain was intact. There was no physical damage that could explain the amnesia. Sometimes, Dr. Phillips explained to me, psychological trauma can cause memory loss. You may have blocked out the event that caused a coma as a defense mechanism. My father was in the room. My mother, too. They both looked nervous. My father particularly so. He was looking at me in a strange way, like he was seeing a ghost. Marcus, he said slowly, do you remember anything? Anything at all? I tried to think, try to reach for some memory that could explain how I got here, but there was nothing. It was as if my life had begun the moment I woke up in that hospital bed. No, I replied, my voice hoarse in the tube in my throat. I don't remember anything. My parents looked at each other. There was something there, something they weren't telling me, something that passed between them in a quick glance, an understanding, a secret. It's okay, my mother said, trying to smile. The doctors said it might take time for your memories to come back. You just woke up. Don't push it. But I did push, because something was wrong, deeply wrong. I spent the next 2 days in the hospital. The doctors removed the tube. They started me on soft foods. They ran mobility tests. Apparently, my body was fine. It was just my mind that was a blank. My parents visited every hour. My grandmother came. My older brother, Daniel, came. Everyone seemed relieved that I was awake. Everyone seemed to be hiding something. On the 3rd day, they brought a phone to my room. Some of your friends want to know how you are. The nurse said. My best friend, Jake, was one of them who called. And when I heard his voice, something stirred in the back of my mind. A feeling, not a full memory, but a sense of familiarity. Like we had known each other for years. Dude, what a relief, Jake said, his voice full of emotion. When we heard you woke up, we couldn't believe it. We thought you'd never wake up. Jake, I asked carefully, can you tell me what happened? How did I get to the hospital? There was a pause. A long, uncomfortable pause. You don't remember? Jake asked, No, I don't remember anything. The doctors say it was psychological trauma. I heard Jake take a deep breath. Marcus, you were in a car accident. 3 weeks ago, you had a head-on collision with a truck. The paramedics said it was a miracle you were alive. A car accident. A car accident. I tried to picture it. Tried to imagine my car colliding with a truck. But there was no image, no memory, just a black void. Okay, thanks, Jake, I said. I need to rest. I hung up, and I started searching. I looked for my phone, but my parents said it had been destroyed in the crash. I looked for a window that would show the day, but there were only drawn curtains. I looked for clues that I had lived a life before waking up in that room, and I found something strange. On the table next to my bed, there was a newspaper. It was from 3 weeks ago, the exact date of the day I supposedly had the accident. I picked up the newspaper with trembling fingers, and then I saw it. My face was on the front page, but it wasn't a picture of me awake. It was a picture of me that I didn't recognize. I had different hair, different clothes, a different expression, and the headline read, Young man vanishes without a trace. Police searching for Marcus Chun, 28. My heart started racing. Wanted? I had disappeared? That didn't make sense with the story my parents had told me. I read the article with trembling fingers. It said I had disappeared 3 weeks ago after leaving my job. There were rumors that I had stolen money from the company. There were rumors that I was involved in something illegal. The police were looking for me as a person of interest in an investigation. If this is making you as confused as I was, leave a comment telling me which theory you think is the truth. My phone rang. It was my mother. She was in the hallway outside my room. Marcus, honey, how are you? She asked, her voice artificially cheerful. Mom, I said, keeping my voice low, why is my face in the newspaper? Why does it say I disappeared? Silence. A long, horrible silence. Mom, I asked, are you reading newspapers? How did you get a newspaper? She asked, panic in her voice. It was on the table. Mom, I need to know the truth. What's going on? She came into the room and closed the door behind her. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red from crying. Marcus, she began, and then she stopped. She took a deep breath. What do you remember? Nothing, I said. I don't remember anything. I woke up here. You and Dad said I was in a coma for 3 weeks. But now I'm reading that I disappeared, that I'm wanted by the police. My mother sat on the edge of the bed. She took my hand, and she began to tell a story that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my life. You weren't in a car accident, she said. You disappeared. 3 weeks ago, you left work and no one saw you again. The police started looking. And then a week ago, your body was found in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. My body was found. What was she saying? When they found you, you were unconscious, but still alive. Barely alive. You had been beaten. Viciously. The police don't know who did it or why. But someone wanted to kill you, Marcus. And they almost succeeded. My room started to spin. Your body, beaten, wanted to kill me. Why did you lie to me? I asked, my voice breaking. Because my mother said, tears streaming down her face. We're not sure what's true and what isn't. You disappeared, Marcus. And when you disappeared, there were investigations underway about you. Criminal investigations. There were suspicions that you were involved in something dangerous. The police want to question you. They want to know where you went. They want to know who you were with. But you woke up with no memory. And your father and I thought you deserved some time. Time to recover. Time before all this madness started again. So you made up the story about the car accident? I asked, my tone rising. Yes, she said, and her tears turned into sobs. Yes, we made it up because we needed to protect you. Because you're our son, and we love you, and we want to keep you safe. Like this video, if you're as close to panicking as I was in that moment. Share if you think the parents were right to lie. The next few days were chaos. The police came to question me. Detectives very serious. Sitting by my hospital bed, asking questions I couldn't answer because I had no memory. Marcus, where did you go when you disappeared? One of the detectives would ask. I don't know. Were you involved in criminal activities? I have no idea. Who did this to you? Why would someone beat you? I don't know. I don't remember anything. Each question was a tool pointed at my heart, because each question revealed that there were people who wanted to hurt me, that there were crimes, that there were secrets in my own life that I didn't know. One of the detectives, Detective Morrison, was different from the others. He looked at me with empathy. Instead of asking accusatory questions, he tried to help me. Marcus, he said on one of his visits, there's something you need to know. When the police started an investigation into you, they found some things. Things your family might have hidden from you. What are you talking about? I asked, your brother, Daniel, do you know what he does for a living? I shook my head. My brother. I had no memories of him. Just a name and a vague sense of familiarity. Your brother is involved with dangerous people, Detective Morrison said. People who lend money for illegal activities. People who charge extremely high interest rates. And when people can't pay, He let the sentence hang in the air. But I understood. Do you think my brother beat me up? I asked, incredulous. Not necessarily him personally, but he could have ordered it. It could be that you were involved in something related to his operations. It could be that you knew something you shouldn't have known. Leave a comment telling me if you think a family would hide the truth about a crime. I confronted my brother Daniel when he came to visit me. I was nervous, scared, but I needed to know. Daniel, I asked, what do you do for a living? He blinked, a small flicker of surprise. Import-export, he replied. Why? Import-export what? I asked. Marcus, you need to rest. The doctor said, answer the question. I shouted, my voice stronger than I expected. Daniel glanced at the door. Then he turned his gaze back to me, and something in his eyes shifted. Something hardened. You really don't remember, do you? He asked, and there was a strange note in his voice. Relief? Satisfaction? No, I replied. I don't remember anything. Then leave it that way, he said. Let it be. The less you remember, the safer you'll be. Safer? Daniel, someone tried to kill me. And they'll try again if you know the truth, he said, moving closer to me. Marcus, you got involved in something you shouldn't have. You saw something you shouldn't have seen, and it caused problems. Big problems. But now you have a chance to start over, to forget everything. You should take that chance. You know who did this to me. It wasn't a question. Daniel didn't answer. He turned and walked out of the room. I spent the next night in dread, because I understood in that moment that my amnesia wasn't an accident. It wasn't just psychological trauma. It was planned. The next few days, I started to comb through my mind for fragments of memory, anything that could help me understand. And slowly, very slowly, they began to appear. One scene, I'm in a car with my brother. He's showing me cash. A lot of cash. This is just the beginning, he says. If you want to make real money, you work with me. One scene, I'm in a warehouse with 3 men I don't recognize. My brother isn't there. The men are asking me where the money is. I tell them I don't know. They start hitting me. One scene, I'm passed out on the warehouse floor. My brother is standing over me. I'm sorry, Marcus, he says, but you shouldn't have let it slip. The memories hit me like waves, and each one of them confirmed what Daniel had implied. He had asked me to work with him. I had refused. Something had gone missing. Money, probably, or drugs. Something valuable that belonged to the wrong people. And my brother had punished me for it. Or worse, he had allowed the wrong people to punish me. But then, before my memories could solidify, before I could be sure of what was real and what was imagined, my mother came in with a nurse. Marcus, my mother said, and her voice was strange. You seem to be hallucinating. Confused. Dr. Phillips wants to give you something to help you relax. Mom, no, I protested. I'm remembering. I'm starting to remember. But the nurse had already given me an injection, and the world started to go dark. Before I lost consciousness, my last thought was, she knew, my mother knew what had happened. She knew what my brother had done, and she was sedating me to stop me from remembering. If this story is sending chills down your spine, share this video. Leave a comment saying what you think is really going on. When I woke up again, days had passed. The days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into a month. But something had changed. My memory was still blank about the crucial events. But now I had a choice. I had the choice to keep pretending I didn't remember, to accept the car accident story, to let my family, especially my brother, get away with what they had done, or I could fight back. I could tell the police what I was starting to remember. I could put my own family in prison. It took me 3 weeks to decide. But before that, I started investigating on my own. I started asking discreet questions. I started observing clues that my own body and mind were offering me. My mother, sensing my growing suspicion, tried to convince me to stop questioning. Marcus, honey, she would say, sitting by my bed, sometimes it's better to let things be. You survived. You're recovering. We don't need to unnecessarily stir up the past. But someone tried to kill me, Mom. I would reply, I can't just forget that. You can, she would say, her eyes full of desperation. You can choose to forget, choose to forgive, choose to move on with your life without this anger, without this hatred. Anger? Hatred? I laughed bitterly. Mom, are you asking me to just accept that my own brother betrayed me? That my father allowed it? That you, my mother, sedated me to stop me from remembering? She didn't answer. Only her eyes filled with tears. Over the next week, I started getting less expected visitors. A colleague from work came to visit. He sat nervously in the chair next to my bed. Marcus, he began, I needed to come here personally to tell you what really happened. What do you mean? I asked. You worked at my company, he said. You were a respected manager. Until your brother started showing up asking for favors. Asking you to turn a blind eye to certain transactions. Asking you to falsify records. Why did he want me to do that? I asked, even though I knew the answer. Because he was using the company as a front for a money laundering operation. The colleague replied, drug money, illegal gambling money, extortion money. And when you refused to participate, when you threatened to report to the authorities, he got furious. The colleague took a deep breath. You disappeared right after that. When we heard about your disappearance, we knew what had happened, but I was too scared to speak up. I was afraid of your brother. But now that you're awake and knowing there's an investigation, I thought you deserved to know the truth. Leave a comment telling me if you think people should have come forward sooner. Another visitor was a young woman. She introduced herself as Amy, and she said we had met months before I disappeared. Marcus, we were dating, she said, her voice trembling. It was serious. But then you started acting strange. You seemed scared all the time. You said you needed to tell me something important, that it was dangerous to know. What was it? I asked. You never told me. Amy said, tears welling up, because you disappeared that night. And I spent weeks thinking you were dead, thinking I would never know what you wanted to tell me. Amy, I'm so sorry. I began, but she held up her hand. Don't be sorry, she said. I just want you to know that I'm here for you. If you want to rekindle our relationship, I'd like that. But I understand if you can't. But I couldn't, because even as she spoke, my mind was generating fragments. Fragments of memories with Amy. Fragments that showed she was abroad when I disappeared. Fragments that showed she couldn't have been complicit in what happened. I needed time. Time to process. Time to decide if I really wanted to rebuild this relationship on the ruins of a life I barely recognized. In the following days, I began to work more deliberately on remembering. The doctors didn't like it. They said it was counterproductive, that letting memory return naturally was better. But I didn't have the luxury of time, because instinctively, I knew my family was planning something. My mother and father were having whispered conversations in the hospital corridors. Daniel had disappeared, but he had left messages. Messages that a nurse passed me discreetly. Keep your mouth shut and you'll live a long, comfortable life, the message said. Open it, and next time you won't wake up. My heart pounded when I read that. My family hadn't just lied to me. My family was threatening my life. I reached out to Detective Morrison that same night. Detective, I said when he entered my room, I need to make a confession. I need to tell you everything I'm starting to remember. But I need protection. I need to be in a safe place. Because if my family finds out I'm talking to you, they'll kill me. Detective Morrison understood immediately. He arranged for me to be transferred to a secure ward in another hospital. He arranged for 24-hour protection. And over the next few days, I told him everything about my brother and his money laundering operation, about how he asked me to participate, about how I refused, about how I was beaten as punishment, and about how my family, instead of supporting me and reporting him, tried to protect him by hiding the truth. The investigation that followed was intense. The police got warrants. They raided the house where my brother was hiding. They found documents, cash, drugs. They found evidence of crimes going back years. My brother was arrested. My father was charged with covering it up. My mother, in a twist, cooperated with the authorities in exchange for immunity. And I was left behind, still in a hospital room, still struggling to regain my memories, still trying to understand how my family had chosen to protect a criminal instead of protecting me. If this story is leaving you conflicted about what you would do if your own family was involved in crime, leave a comment. Leave a comment telling me your city and country. 3 months after waking up from the coma, I was finally discharged from the hospital. My memory had returned almost completely. The remaining gaps were small, insignificant compared to the knowledge I now had. I knew what my brother had done. I knew what my parents had done. And I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. My father served 6 months in prison before being released. His lawyer argued that he was just protecting his son, that no one could blame him for that he was a victim of circumstances, just like I was. But I don't agree, because protection should never come with lies. Protection should never come with sedation. Protection should never come with threats. My brother got 15 years in prison, multiple crimes, multiple consecutive sentences. He'll be released when he's 65, if he commits no further crimes in prison. My mother and I have a complicated relationship now. She comes to visit me sometimes. We want to reconcile, but there's a scar between us that will never completely fade. She betrayed my trust. And while I can forgive her intellectually, emotionally, there's still a wall. Amy and I rebuilt our relationship. It's not the same as before. It can't be, because she now knows the truth about my family. And that has changed the way she sees me. But we're trying. We're learning to live together despite what happened. I spent 2 years in therapy. Therapy for trauma. Therapy for dealing with betrayal. Therapy for understanding how my own memories were turned against me. Dr. Phillips, my original doctor, came close to losing his license when it became clear he had helped my mother sedate me without legitimate cause. But in the end, the blame was placed on professional miscommunication. He still practices medicine. Sometimes that angers me. Sometimes I stand in front of his office and want to confront him. I want to make him understand how his action almost cost me my life, how his complicity with my mother could have destroyed my chance at the truth. But I don't, because part of my healing is learning to let go of the past. Part of my healing is accepting that sometimes the people responsible are not held accountable, that sometimes injustice happens, and you have to learn to live with it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell my story. Subscribe to the channel for more true stories about secrets, trauma, and how to find the truth even when someone is desperately trying to hide it. And share this video. Share it because friends, family, people you know might be in a similar situation. They might be being sedated. They might be having their memories manipulated. They might be having their minds controlled by those who are supposed to love them. Remember, memory is fragile, but the truth is permanent. And sooner or later, the truth always comes out. The question is, will you be ready to face it when it does?